Jameson would like to welcome you aboard this flight to Dublin and to invite you to join their unofficial call to bring pro football to Ireland. Stow any foam fingers in the overhead compartments, and a bar cart stocked with Jameson's finest whiskey will be making its way down the aisle after takeoff, because only Jameson would try to bring football to a whole new country. Join the Jameson Huddle at jamesonsports.com. Taste responsibly. Copyright 2024. Imported by John Jameson Import Company. New York, New York.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett. We are here on a Victory Monday, the first Victory Monday of the 2024 NFL season, to react to the San Francisco 49ers 30-13 victory over the New England Patriots in week number 4 of the NFL season. And how about that for a bounce back victory after two inconsistent, poorly played, a lot of penalties, just grueling 2 losses back-to-back against the Vikings and the Rams. The 49ers got back to playing San Francisco 49er football. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was getting back to who they once were. It was probably the best win of the year thus far. It looked like the most cohesive we have seen San Francisco play through 4 weeks, and the first month of the NFL season is kind of where you want to kind of get a feeling as to where teams are going to be. You can make your assessments through weeks 1 and 4. You're going to have really good teams play pretty bad, like San Francisco has. You're going to have young teams nobody expects to be good, like the Commanders, come out and beat teams like the Bengals and the Cardinals by scoring 40 points on that defense, which isn't very good, but it shocks you, right? You also watch teams like the Cowboys and the Ravens and the Eagles be up and down throughout the first month of the NFL season, but just like that, we are 1 month through the NFL season. San Francisco is now 2-2 after the win, and simply based off records, had San Francisco lost this game, if they fell to 1-3 against the Patriots, their playoff odds would have plummeted to 13% on the year. Doesn't mean your season's over. It just means you got to fight and claw your way back from a pretty poor, pretty insane deficit to make the playoffs. Now that they have won and are 2-2, they're the only 2-2 team in the NFC West. As of now, the Seattle Seahawks are 3-0, but they play the Detroit Lions tonight, so let's see if that continues to be. But if it doesn't, San Francisco's win not only keeps them at 500, it also means that they are in a week, in a place and time where the Rams lost, the Cardinals lost, and if the Seahawks lose, they have gained a game up on every single team in their division. They've separated themselves a little bit from the Cardinals and the Rams, and they've gotten closer to the Seattle Seahawks if the Seahawks do not get the victory tonight. I'll just say this game against the Patriots was really fun. I think that is the theme I had in this game. You see Brock Purdy out there being like, "Hi, Mom," on the TV. You see the defense out there dancing, doing their thing. Nick Bosa is like pleading for the refs to call Brissett down so he can get more sacks on plays. This was getting back to who they once were. They were having fun out there. San Francisco, whether it was the offense or the defense, they were having fun. And through the first 3 weeks, while yes, winning will certainly fix that, when San Francisco, even when they were winning games against the Rams, it felt like this wasn't a fun game to be playing in. There wasn't the energy, this enthusiastic mentality, or this enthusiastic mindset. It was, okay, we're playing football, this is our job. Wow, in this game, the defense had like 30 pressures. Brock Purdy was going nuts. As Fluffy Ninja says here on the YouTube chat, saying Brock did his thing. Brock Purdy, and I want to make this very clear, that Brock Purdy right now is playing like an MVP. Brock Purdy came into this year, on my own opinion, that he was a top 10 quarterback. I believe I had him around the 7 mark in my quarterback tier rankings. Right now, you could argue, maybe outside of Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy has been the number 3 best quarterback in football in 2024. He's outplaying Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes has not looked like Mahomes. Brock Purdy, the last 2 weeks especially, has taken that next step. Now, can he maintain that? If the last 25 games or so in his career are anything to point to and say, yes, he now has surpassed Jeff Garcia for the most passing yards by a Niner quarterback in their first 25 games in team history. He has a higher passer rating than any other quarterback in NFL history through his first 25 games. Yes, that means surpassing Patrick Mahomes. And through 4 weeks this year, Brock Purdy leads the NFL in passing yards with over 1,133 yards. He has the most yards per attempt at 9.3, the most deep completions. All the talk of he's a check down merchant, all he does is give it to Deebo underneath and Christian McCaffrey. No, Brock Purdy isn't just winning football games without his number one weapon in CMC. He's flourishing without him. Yes, I know games against the Rams and the Vikings weren't perfect by any means, and there have definitely been stumbles along the way, but when you hear he's leading in passing yards, yards per attempt, deep completions, deep passing yards, deep passes dropped, he's not even getting the help he deserves from the receivers he has. Brandon Ayuk, Ronnie Bell, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, all had a few drops so far. He has the most first downs of any quarterback in the NFL, and again, he has the highest passer rating of all time through the first 25 games of his NFL career. I think that the last couple games, we talked about this last year a lot when we weren't really sure exactly who Brock Purdy was, right? The UCL injury, he had that second half stint in 2022. You're like, wow, Brock's awesome. Can he continue that? And throughout almost the entirety of last season, it was, wow, Shanahan trusts this guy to go out there and win him football games. And the last couple games this year, well, he's certainly had to, because yes, he has Jordan Mason, but he hasn't had Deebo, he hasn't had Kittle. Shanahan could have easily just said, you know what, lock it up, run the football 45 plus times, only use play action, and just kind of lock Brock Purdy behind a door or a closet and say, you know what, playing with kid gloves, don't want to risk anything. Shanahan has been like, no way, unlock Brock Purdy. Take the shackles off and let this kid loose. Brock Purdy looks like a playmaking MVP-level quarterback so far in 2024. And it's not just, again, the screen passes underneath stuff. It feels like every drive in this game against the Cardinals, there was a deep shot being taken. Ayuk in the first drive for like 36 yards. Juwan Jennings for about 38 downfield. Deebo Samuel, when this offense, they're supposed to get the ball to begin the second half to hopefully lap the Cardinals. Grando fumbles. Oh crap, Patriots score, they're back in the game. What does the offense do? 4 plays, 70 yards, kind of capped off by the Deebo Samuel 53-yard pass from Brock Purdy. This team was pushing the ball down the field, and you can tell there is this, again, while it's not been perfect, there's definitely been lapses. There's been these ebbs and flows to the offense, and sometimes you want to clean those things up, right? The main, I think, focus of everyone's mind right now is that you have to score in the red zone. They were 2 for 4 against the Patriots in the red zone, but when you get takeaways, Sam Aquanu's forced fumble, bang, get the ball back, go down, score some points, and you get a field goal, those things got to get cleaned up. But from a holistic standpoint, when you look at the entirety of the game, the entirety of the picture that was on display against the Patriots, who are not a great team, right? You can definitely downplay this win for sure, but a win's a win, right? You won by 17 points in the National Football League. Most people can't say that week by week. San Francisco's done it nearly twice this year. Beat the Jets by, I think, around, what was that, 13, 14 points against the Jets week 1, and now 17 against the Patriots. Nothing is given. San Francisco had a win against the Rams, fumbled it. In this game, it felt like we were going that direction for a short stint in time until the offense answered. You can see Kyle Shanahan saying, you know what, if I want to win with this current team, yeah, I had Jordan Mason for 132 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. Great, love it. I don't have CMC, fine, whatever. I got Deebo. I got Kittle back. I got Brandon Ayuk, who still is inconsistent, but I got Brandon Ayuk. I got Juwan Jennings. You can see Kyle almost saying, you know what, I'm going to take all this pressure, all this attention, I'm going to drape it over Brock Purdy's shoulders and say, lead this team. And that has never been said, or at least never been shown to any quarterback in San Francisco in Kyle Shanahan's tenure. This is the first time since Matt Ryan that you can tell Shanahan is fully bought into a quarterback, and it just feels like that while last year Brock was really good deep downfield, Brock was aggressive downfield, he wanted to make plays, that now this year it is even more so. That when the offense in previous iterations, Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins and Beathard, was over-reliant on timing over the middle of the field, checkdowns, end-arounds, Deebo Samuel wide back stuff, while those things still exist in the offense, Shanahan is like, take the kid gloves off, Brock Purdy, we're taking shots downfield every single drive. We're going to test defenses no matter who they are. And I get it's the Rams and the Patriots. They're not great, right? But that's what great teams and good teams are supposed to do. I wanted Kyle to test the Rams secondary even more in week 3. And against the Patriots, I told you, look, this is a bad secondary, a better defense, but not a great secondary. Christian Gonzalez doing his thing for sure, but you can attack a lot of players in this secondary, and you can almost force them to stop you. I think that's the thing right now with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, is the Rams can't stop Brock Purdy. The Patriots couldn't stop Brock Purdy. Continue to push the ball, push the envelope, and say, look, if you're not going to cover deep, we have 3 or 4 guys that can go down there and get the football. Juwan Jennings' is back-to-back weeks with circus catches have just been like, oh my goodness, he mosses the guy against the Rams, and this week he tips, and right into his hands, and you're like, oh my God, Juwan Jennings, incredible. But a lot of that goes to Brock Purdy, where he didn't have an offseason with Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel has missed time. George Kittle missed a week against the Vikings. Like, you can tell that in the first month of the NFL season, there's bumps and bruises you take, and you wish you were 3-1. You wish you were 4-0, and while no means does this game not leave more on the table. This game could have been 42-13. This game could have been 40-10. There's still more meat on the bone for the San Francisco 49ers, but for Brock Purdy's case, or in his case, he's taking that meat by himself, and he's chewing it up. He's gnashing that bone like, I want to take everything I can off. He was so good in this game for San Francisco. 15 for 27 is not great, but when you have 288 yards, nearly averaging 11 yards per attempt, you have the 1 touchdown, you have a rating of 89.7, but take it further. I think when we talk about Brock Purdy being a playmaker, I think a lot of what gets lost in that conversation is, his arm talent's not A1. It ain't steak sauce. It ain't Mahomes. It ain't Josh Allen. He's never going to be asked to do that stuff. But am I wrong to say that, well, maybe he isn't the runner like Lamar Jackson is, who you'll scheme running plays for? He's not Josh Allen. Not going to, bulldoze you over like a bell cow back in the 1980s. He's not that guy. But what he can do is he'll evade pressure multiple times in this game. He will spin out of sacks towards his blind side where he has no idea what's coming in front of him, evade pressure, give a little high step, do a little pump fake, and he'll get you 5 extra yards, keep drives alive. Am I wrong to say that Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at extending plays? Again, he's not Lamar Jackson. You're not going to scheme running plays for him. He's never going to run the read option. It's not going to be what he does in this offense in regards to giving him an opportunity to keep the ball, tuck it, and run. That's not his game. But when he's out there dripped up in the red Adidas shoes and the red high socks, out there juking guys, making guys miss, spinning out of sacks over and over again and still making plays, Like, man, like, Brock looks phenomenal. Brock looks like an MVP right now. Will he win it? It's 4 games. Time will tell, but my goodness. Well, yes, you want to be 3-1. You want to win more games, certainly. I think Brock Purdy looks phenomenal. Now, let's talk about the one bad thing he did in this game. He throws a pick. Was it a great throw? No. But when you listen to what Kyle Shanahan had to say, and for context on the interception, it was following, if I can find it here in my notes, it's in the second half. The offense is kind of, they're kind of muddling here. You want them to score more. They're not scoring very well. But, okay, it's 27-10. Okay, you get the ball back, and you hit, you get the ball back. It's 27-13, 27-13. Hit the big 46-yarder downfield to Jawan Jennings, and you're like, oh my gosh, this offense can't be stopped. Then you get called back for an illegal shift, and then Kittle gets a short pass. It's 2nd and like 10. You're on the Patriots side of the field. Brock Purdy throws the pick into double coverage. Jabril Peppers makes a great play to get back on the ball and gets the interception. Even that play where the offense goes for the kill shot, they go to put the Patriots down, right? And they don't succeed. But even in that play where there wasn't the correct execution on it, you like the effort. You like the idea of, okay, it's 27-13. The odds the Patriots move the football on this defense, it just was not their day, is how I'll put it. They're not an aggressive offense, not an explosive offense. You're definitely going to have an opportunity again to get the ball back and likely have a still 14-point lead. So they go for the kill shot. Purdy throws the interception. Not great. It's a pick. You never want to turn the ball over, but I like that risk. I like the aggression. And even Kyle Shanahan in his post-game press conference did say, look, the ball's late. The ball's late. You can't throw that ball when it's late. When you see it, Purdy saw the correct thing. The safety was playing in. Ayuk got the right angle. The safety made a great play and got back. Had that throw been made earlier in the play, it's likely a touchdown. It's likely a 34-13 game at that point. And at that point, it's like, look, put in Brandon Allen, you can put in Garendo, put in Patrick Taylor Jr., get all the receivers off the field, pull out Nick Bosa, pull out everyone else, don't want anyone else getting hurt. I think Brock Purdy, you can tell that maybe he was a little greedy there. Why not? You've hit on deep balls back-to-back weeks multiple times. In this game alone, you've hit on Jennings deep in this exact same drive. Deebo Samuel deep early in the game to score some points later, right? You've done everything you're supposed to do as a quarterback that wants to push the ball down the field, and you've hit your marker over and over and over again, so why not take a chance? In this case, what do you have to lose, right? Well, yes, don't love turning the ball over there. It's a place in time where you're okay taking that chance, taking that risk. If that was against the Rams, or let's say, and take that for example, right? The throw Brock Purdy made against the Patriots where it got picked off is, while not the exact same play, it's a very similar situation to the throw he didn't make to Ayuk against the Rams. So within that is growth from Brock Purdy, where he's now, okay, look, I'll pull the trigger, I'll try this, didn't work, cool, wash it, we're still at 14. Whereas against the Rams, your offense is kind of reeling. You want to score some points, but you can't turn the ball over. That's the difference here. Where I think Brock, whether it's a trust issue with Ayuk or whatever it may be, there's a reason Brock didn't throw that ball against the Rams. They couldn't turn the ball over in that situation. Now, if they catch it and he runs for a touchdown, whew, great. But the odds that actually happens, who knows? In this game, you're playing more relaxed, you're having fun, the odds the Patriots come back are almost slim to none. Take a risk, take a shot, and see what happens, right? But Brock Purdy, I think, played his best game of the season by far in this game. The interception almost kind of washes itself away. It's like, whatever. I do think there are concerns about fumbling, though. Jordan Mason fumbled twice in this game. Now, how big of a deal is that? may mean nothing, but man. Laurie Matthews makes a great point here, is that in regards to Brock Purdy's success, this year, there hasn't been all the yak yards. And I think that kind of goes to Purdy's success in himself, where in previous years, quarterbacks, they've been reliant on yak. Even last year when you have Christian McCaffrey, which I guarantee you, if CMC was out there, you would see a higher yak total simply because he'll get you 4 or 5 yards of yak per play. There'd be more checkdowns, but I think the aggression of Brock Purdy to say, you know what, like, I don't have to rely on yak to win football games. I'm not a quarterback that needs to have Deebo carry me or need Juwan and Kittle to be the offense for myself. I love those guys. I rely on them. But take George Kittle's touchdown pass in this game. Triple coverage, corner of the end zone, just sling that sucker up and say, George is out there, F it. I'm throwing it up. I trust you, buddy. Like, Purdy seems to have this confidence. One,
Jameson would like to welcome you aboard this flight to Dublin and to invite you to join their unofficial call to bring pro football to Ireland. Stow any foam fingers in the overhead compartments, and a bar cart stocked with Jameson's finest whiskey will be making its way down the aisle after takeoff, because only Jameson would try to bring football to a whole new country. Join the Jameson Huddle at jamesonsports.com. Taste responsibly. Copyright 2024. Imported by John Jameson Import Company. New York, New York.
In himself, but almost this, it's not blind confidence. It's just, I believe my guys are better than the opposing defense, where I don't need to throw the ball within 5 yards and make them get me 25. No, they can go 15 yards deep, 25 yards deep, deep crossers, post routes, whatever it may be, go routes, and I'm going to hit them in stride. And we're going to make big plays because the quarterback can make big plays, not because you have playmakers like CMC and Juwan and Deebo, which in this game, the stats don't blow you away. Juwan, 3 catches, 88 yards. That was the team high. Deebo, 358 yards. Kittle, 4 catches, 45 yards. Ayuk, 248 yards. It's not like one player took over the game like Juwan did against the Rams. It wasn't just one guy. You're like, oh my goodness, he took over the game. This was a complete, cohesive team win, which hasn't happened almost all year. Jordan Mason was good. I feel so bad for him too, because it's the second time this year he's got a touchdown and it's gotten taken away due to a penalty. In this game, it was against Kittle for a BS holding call. Week 1, it was the Jets for Deebo getting called for holding. And on the exact same drive, the player that gets called for the penalty to erase Mason's touchdown then scores the touchdown on the drive. In this game, it was Kittle's back of the end zone, triple coverage, 3 flies up, go up and get it, touchdown, which, again, I don't know how that happened, but my goodness, don't do that, but still do that. Like, wow, dangerous, but what a play. And then Deebo Samuel gets the run for a touchdown against the Jets. But I feel bad for Mason because he's getting kind of vultured by his own players on accident. But just a cohesive offensive win. The offensive line was much better, which the Patriots defense, and Calachipto says here they're above average, referencing my point of they're not great. You're right. The Patriots defense playing a 3-3-5, they're not terrible. They beat the Bengals week 1, right? Took the Seahawks to overtime. Like, not a bad unit. Certainly banged up, no Christian Barmore. Peppers came back for them this week. Got the interception on Brock Purdy. But they're not great. They are a good unit with no real superstars. Gonzalez is certainly getting there. But even in this game, it certainly felt like that their defense was like Swiss cheese. San Francisco was moving the ball up and down the field, and the only time it didn't happen was when they made the mistakes, not when the Patriots played well, right? But the offensive line was good. Jake Brendel finally bounced back. Dominic Pooney hasn't allowed a single sack all year, 29 pass pro snaps in this game. Not a single pressure, not a single sack, which that's where you balance, like, how much do you look into this win? Oh, it's Patriots, but it's the NFL, right? Yeah, the Patriots aren't great, but the Bengals lost to them. Seattle almost lost to them. And right now, Seattle's like, we beat the Patriots and we beat Skylar Thompson. Bang, bang, we're number one in the NFC West. And it's like, who'd you play? But in the same breath, it's like, you have to respect these players. You have to respect the NFL level of talent. And San Francisco defended their home court, defended their home field, and made NFL caliber teams look lackluster. This is the first time this year, maybe outside of the Jets game, in which the Patriots were on a short week, not well rested and injured, that they looked like a bottom 5 team in football. San Francisco put up 30 on them. Could have been more. I think, and that's the promising thing in this, where Brock Purdy's great and Jauan Jennings looks like, we joked on the postgame show on 95.7 The Game, me and Kyle Madsen, of, Jauan Jennings, third and Jauan. He's no longer third and Jauan. He's just Jauan. Like, he's just Jauan Jennings now. He's Benny Jennings. He's a dog. No longer is he just this third down, number 2 tight end receiver, big slot receiver. He's a bona fide number 2 receiver on a team that already has 2 bona fide receivers that are stars. Now, you can get back there for sure, but Jauan Jennings has been the best. You could argue Jauan Jennings, outside of Brock Purdy, has been San Francisco's best offensive weapon. It's certainly him and Jordan Mason so far this year, which I guarantee you, had you put money on it, you wouldn't have said that. It would have been CMC and Deebo and George Kittle. It wouldn't have been Jauan Jennings and Jordan Mason. So it's really nice to see players step up offensively. But he's no longer third and Jauan. He's just Jauan. He has made a name for himself. He has established himself where you put him on the Patriots, you put him on the Panthers, you put him on bad teams, I guarantee you Jauan Jennings is their receiver number 1. And I don't think we were even having that conversation last year. Now, we know how good Jauan is. Incredible hands. He's clutch. You could argue he is one of the most clutch players in football, just the last couple seasons. Whereas this year, that next step, he has certainly taken it to a point of you're receiver number 2, and on bad teams, you are the WR number 1, if you will. He's been stellar. He's fought through contact. He's doing everything he does on third downs on first and second downs now, which is really cool to see. For still a young player like him, got a big raise in the offseason, which all the eyes are on. Is Ayuk going to get paid? Is he going to get traded? This, that, and the other. Jauan Jennings just like, look, like, I'm going to go out there, put in the work, be at training camp and the OTAs every single day, and it's paying dividends. Kyle Cheapto says here, Brock Purdy's number 1 in yards, Mason number 2 in yards, and Jauan Jennings number 3 in yards in regards to quarterback, running back, and receiver placement. It's awesome to see, like, who knows what happens with Christian McCaffrey with the, was it bilateral tendonitis now, where he has it in both legs, and you're like, oh my God, can this get any worse? I've been one to harp on it and say, look, we don't know when McCaffrey's ever going to come back, which you hope it's this year. San Francisco's fingers crossed, still saying November, but I'm thinking post-bye week, you may not see him till December. Which it's good to have players like Mason and like Jennings, which even in this game where Ayuk wasn't perfect, I think Ayuk was much better in this game than he was against the Rams. I think despite only having, 2 catches in this game against the Patriots, had 2 catches, 48 yards, this may have been Ayuk's best game this year. And the reason why I point to that is because we have been seeing Ayuk catch footballs, drop footballs, and not looking like himself, right? One of the bigger ones, week 1, Jets, back of the end zone, dives for it, drops it, right? Tough play, but that's one Ayuk usually comes down with, right? And against the Vikings, drops a couple plays. But in this game, 3rd and 9, right? It's 3rd and 9. Your ball's on your own 12-yard line, right? You have to take a deep shot downfield to Conley. You can tell Purdy's like, I'm feeling myself. We're taking shots downfield great on first down. And I can't tell you how many first down deep shots the offense took in this game. It was just like, we're pushing that sucker down the field left and right. But in that exact same breath, it's 3rd and 9, right? You got the ball back from the Patriots. second drive out of halftime, you want to go and put some points up, put this game out of reach. And although San Francisco didn't score on this play, or on this drive, it's 3rd and 9. You're on your own 12-yard line, maybe your own 10 at this point. You're like, man, we got to push the ball. We have to get a first down here. The last thing we want to do is punt the ball away and give the Patriots good field position. 3rd and 9, Ayuk makes a phenomenal diving catch to his right at that point in time. And you're like, that's it. That's the Brandon Ayuk we've been waiting to see. It wasn't a great game. It wasn't a perfect game. 248. It's not going to be, wow. It doesn't jump out the box score, but you can see this kind of week by week, there is this progression back to the player Brandon Ayuk has been in the past. Kyle Cheapto says here, Ayuk looked not slow. He hasn't had the burst back just yet, but he looks 80% there. Sometimes it's looked like that while Calachipto says he's running in sand at times, I would say you can tell that he's kind of been in his own head. I know before this game happened, I think it was on Friday, maybe Thursday before the game on Sunday, where we had Shortsgate. What did Kyle Shanahan say to Brandon Ayuk to make him that upset? He yelled at him or whatever he said, and because Ayuk had the wrong shorts on, it was like, oh my goodness, like what else could happen this year? We're talking about shorts. Seriously, he wore red shorts and he had to have black shorts on. It's like, really? And it was like this looming dark cloud of, you've lost 2 games in a row. We're bickering over shorts. Pantalones, if you will, in Spanish. Like, are you serious now? Which it wasn't a great look for Ayuk, but who cares? You ever get yelled at by your coach? I have plenty of times. You ever get yelled at by your boss? It happens, right? And you're like, hey, wash it, move on. It's not a big deal. But you're wondering, okay, how is that going to progress, or is that going to linger into this game? And no, first drive of the game, boom, deep shot downfield, Purdy to Ayuk. You're like, yep, that's a great sign to see. 3rd and 9. Like, man, like that diving catch, it was Ayuk of last year, ladybug catch, all pro, near Pro Bowl level Ayuk. You're like, I can see this glimmer of hope of he's in there. It's like a butterfly coming out of the cocoon just by little bits at a time. You're like, week by week, there's more and more of the wings. You're like, I can't wait to see what this looks like once it's out of the cocoon and it's flourishing, which hopefully when they play the Cardinals this Sunday and then the Seahawks next Thursday, then you have teams like the Chiefs and you have teams like the Dallas Cowboys. You're playing at a higher level till you can take it to Kansas City. You can beat Dallas. And taking a look at, the ahead schedule, if you will, and we'll dive into the defense in a second here, but, this was a must-win game for San Francisco, right? You lost to the Rams. It was embarrassing. It was the worst loss of Kyle Shanahan's tenure in San Francisco with good teams, at least. You should have won that game. How you lost was just, put your head in your palms and say, how did we lose? In this one, you had to win. You came out, you stomped them. But you not only stomped the Patriots, got back to 500, you won this game to a point of the Rams also losing to Chicago, to the Cardinals losing to the Commanders. And tonight, if the Seahawks lose, they're 3-1. You're now very close to the top of the NFC West, right? Obviously, things have to work your way in a perfect world, if you will. You beat the Cardinals next week. You're 3-2. Maybe Seattle loses. Short week against Seattle, in Seattle. I hope they're wearing the white throwbacks up there, but I have no idea if they are. They better. But you're probably healthier, hopefully. Deebo's back another week. Ayuk is rounding into form, hopefully more so that butterfly wings are out in full force. He's out there flying and being like, look at me. I'm a butterfly, right? But there is a possibility. There is this, there is a clear path to regaining the NFC West. You beat the Cardinals. Seahawks lose next week. You beat the Seahawks in 2 weeks' time in their place on Thursday Night Football. You have a tiebreaker. You're 3-3. At that point, San Francisco's 2-1 in the division with a head-to-head tiebreaker over Seattle. Bang. you're in first place again. For as bad as the last 2 weeks have been for San Francisco, for as, hitting the panic button or as close to the panic meter as we are of like, this could get ugly really fast, which it could, San Francisco at least staved off, that panic meter being at full bore code red, but they've also turned it so far back in the right direction where you're like, wow, in 2 weeks' time, we're in first place in the NFC West, and hopefully, they've either made a move or guys are getting healthier, and you got to think, by that time, maybe John Feliciano's healthy, maybe Kalia Davis is back, maybe Hufunga's rounding into better form. Like, there is a lot of things to point to and say, wow, like San Francisco could be in a better spot in 2 weeks' time than they are right now. Lori Matthews asks here, do we have an update on Fred Warner? Not that I've seen so far. He seemed to be fine. He was jogging off the field after the game yesterday. So I'm not of the belief it's that serious. Fred did say that he tried to go. He just couldn't. But that to me doesn't mean, anything too serious. To me, it's like, look, it's the Patriots. We're going to be cautious. And even in that same, conversation of, is Fred okay? Which I believe he's day-to-day. Kawachipto says here that all injuries minus Elliott are day-to-day per Kyle Shanahan. I think he'll be okay, but even in that, okay, it's a great transition to the defense. This was the first time all year the defense looked like San Francisco's defense. Week ones are always, what do you actually make of week ones? The Jets are obviously a much better team now than they were. Well, maybe not. They lost to the Broncos, but but even then, week ones are always tough to kind of gauge where you're at. Leonard Floyd looked like $1 million in week one, right? Not really much since, but in this game against the Patriots, we had talked about the defense needing a change. We had talked about something's got to give for this unit to get back to who they were. Under Ryans, under Saleh, and we want to give Nick Sorensen time. His fourth ever game calling plays. You cannot do or excel much in the NFL, especially when it's your third time ever calling plays, fourth time calling plays. You're not going to be great, right? Things take time. But this defense, from the get-go, you can tell it was this attack. If you want to use D'Amico Ryans' motto of swarm. They were swarming at the ball, towards the ball, at the quarterback, at the ball carriers, left and right. I believe Brissett had, let's see in my notes here for a second, Brissett had roughly 34 dropbacks, 2 of them ended up being scrambles in the game. So 34 dropbacks, 2 scrambles. The Niners in this game, of the 34 dropbacks, had 31 pressures. Like, there were 3. And in that case, because he had 2 scrambles, all but one play, all but one drop back, Brissett wasn't pressured. You talk about not having Javon Hargrave. Who's going to step up? How are you going to, manufacture pressure? It was like, and I think Bobo had the comment earlier in the chat, of that didn't even miss Javon Hargrave. Didn't even feel like he was gone. Now, in bigger games, we will certainly feel the absence of Javon Hargrave. It's a massive loss. He was having a great year against pass rush, but against the run, not so much. But, yeah, against the Patriots, who are banged up, lost their starting center in the first drive of this game. San Francisco just attacked the football over and over again. And it wasn't just, okay, Bosa's winning and Floyd's winning and Malik Collins, who was out of his mind in this game, was winning, or Kevin Givens. It was like, no, Nick Sorensen saw, okay, look, I have to manufacture pressure. I have to bring blitzes. In the first drive of this game, San Francisco blitzed twice. One of those was on 3rd and 7. Later in the game, there was a couple more blitzes. Like, San Francisco made it a point to attack the Patriots, not just bad offensive line. Their bad and banged up offensive line that was playing second and third stringers. Now, I would never expect San Francisco, for as highly paid as Nick Bosa is, Leonard Floyd is, and others are, to have 31 pressures against the Cardinals next week. But in this game where you had to get right, you had to change mentalities, you can dive further into the tape. While Fred Warner didn't play second half at all, they didn't blitz him on third downs. They blitzed Devondre Campbell instead, who I told you was a much better run defending linebacker than in pass coverage. And he wasn't great in this game by any means, certainly against the pass later on in the second half. But when Fred was out there on third downs, you can see the improvement of, okay, Sorensen is learning. Sorensen's saying, okay, I'm not going to bring Fred. I'm going to drop him back in coverage. I'm going to let Devondre Campbell eat in the middle and manufacture pressure. I'll blitz Jair Brown. I'll blitz, D. Winters off the side, and I'll let Fred Warner cook in the middle to be a phenomenal pass coverage player, which Fred is just out of this world, as we all know. But it also helps when your players, when you aren't blitzing, are also winning 1v1. Malik Collins, I think, had 4 pressures in this game. He had 1.5 sacks. He was really good. Malik Collins has, and it pains me to say this because, Noah Javon Hargrave puts more pressure on Malik Collins to be the number 1 defensive tackle. He was phenomenal, and he really has been one of the better pass rushing defensive tackles in football. He was eating up the Patriots centers and guards. He was pushing 2 or 3 guys a play, it felt like, to get back there and get sacks and get pressures. Kevin Givens.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Who I believe came into this year with 4.5 sacks on his career, got 2.5 sacks in this game. Like Kevin Givens, who, again, with no Javon Hargrave, someone's got to step up. Collins stepped up. Givens stepped up. Evan Anderson, UDFA at FAU, he stepped up. He's out there, not getting pressures all the time. And this is a great thing with young defenders. Sometimes young defenders, when they don't get pressure, they kind of quit. They don't jump or put their hands up. They're just fighting the guy in front of them, whereas Evan Anderson's out there smacking the ball out of the hands of Brissett, getting a forced fumble, right? He's doing things that veterans that are savvy do, where you see in playoff games, we're like, oh my goodness, the wherewithal to make that play. Well, it's one game. We'll see what happens and transpires the next, 13 games of the year. It was a great, smart play by a rookie player in his NFL debut to make that play and knock the ball out of Brissett's hands. It was really nice to see. Sam Aquanu, forced fumble in the first drive for the Patriots in this one, get San Francisco the ball back, turns it into a field goal, makes this game 6-0. Like, guys got to step up. Sam O was phenomenal in this game. You can always tell when he's on the field, which you never really say about backups. And Chris Kocurek has done such a great job over his time in San Francisco, getting guys like Arden Key and Charles Omenihu and Jordan Willis and Kerry Hyder, the best out of those guys that have been playing for 4 or 5, 6 years before getting to San Francisco. Whereas Sam Aquanu really hasn't had that time, really hasn't had 3 or 4 or 5 years. He's a practice squad player, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. UDFA for Tennessee, I believe, kind of bounced around a handful of teams. But, my goodness, Sam Aquanu looks great. We talked about in the offseason Leonard Floyd's motor. Sam Aquanu has a motor. He's young, he's quick, he's fresh. He's not going to beat your star left tackle 1v1, but he rushes with so much power. He does it standing up, too, which gives you so much more mobility. Just a great start to a really young career. Not a rookie, but, Chris Kocurek may have found something in this young man, which is so, so cool to see. Bobo, I see your comment. I'll get to it in a second, I promise you. But Nick Bosa, we have been waiting for Nick Bosa, the smaller bear, to get out there and put a stamp on a game. And I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, it was like, look, Fred Warner's out. Hufunga's not playing. Someone, your star defensive player, your edge rusher, the defensive player of the year a couple years ago, you've got to step up. What does he do? Patriots are marching downfield. They're not going to win, but you want to put the final stamp on this game, put it away, lock, stock, and barrel, say night-night, hashtag Stephen Curry. You want your star player to be that one to do it, right? It felt like the last 2 drives the Patriots had, Bosa was in the backfield 5 of the 6 plays, right? Almost every single play he was down, give me that sack, please. Kind of advocating for himself to get a sack on the day, and didn't happen. Then to put this one out of reach, he gets behind the left tackle, and you can see it coming. You're like, yep, this one's over. Here comes Nick Bosa, chasing down Brissett, smacks the ball out of his hands, forced fumble, gets the ball back, and you're like, yep, gets the shrug out, and you're like, finally, Nick Bosa puts his stamp on a game this year. We've been waiting so long. All these guys, Samo, Malik Collins, Kevin Givens are stepping up, and you're like, yes, we need this. And Bosa's like, you know what? I want to get in on the action. I think he had 7 to 9 pressures. If you go to PFF, I think PFF said it was 7, but NFL Next Gen said it was 9. Either way, he had 8 for all I care. 8 pressures. He had a sack, a strip sack, forced a fumble. Nick Bosa finally doing what he's paid to do and put games away. So it was a great job. He was in the backfield all day. He was awesome in this one. Fred Warner, though, like Bobo says here, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner might be competing for the DPOY this year. Bosa certainly has some work to do to catch Fred Warner because Fred Warner has just been on another level of play. I mean, my goodness, Fred Warner so far this year, and I want to read you some stats off my phone if I can pull it up really fast. We all know Fred, right? Fred is right now the only player since 2019 to have 10 interceptions, 10 sacks, and 10 forced fumbles. He is one of one. He is the best linebacker in football, bar none, but it's not just that. So far this season, 2024, he has 27 tackles, 4 pass blocks, 4 PBUs, 2 forced incompletions, 2 interceptions, and this game got the pick 6, got San Francisco their first touchdown in this game. He has 1 sack this year, only 10 yards allowed per game in coverage, and when targeted, we all know Fred, he races the middle of the field. When targeted, he's 17.6 passer rating allowed. Fred Warner has been the DPOY through 4 games this season. He has just been incredible. I mean, in this game, on his pick 6, he almost dekes out Brissett, watching the eyes the whole time, kind of shades and shadows one receiver, knowing, hey, if I do this, he's going to come back the other direction. He deked him into throwing a pick. It was awesome to see. So freaking smart. He's like, wow. Didn't even play the second half. And on the game, he, for the defense, was second in tackles. He didn't play the second half. He was second in tackles against the Patriots. He was that good. I mean, when you know Fred Warner's out there, you know something good's going to happen. Wasn't great against the Rams, he'll tell you that, but my goodness, 3 or 4 games this year, he has just been a game changer. He has been one of the reasons San Francisco was in a game against the Vikings. He was a large reason as to why San Francisco was surviving against the Rams, if you will. He's just the greatest eraser of the middle of the field in football. That's what Fred Warner is, the greatest eraser of the middle of the field in football. You ask any quarterback, they'll tell you the exact same thing. Throw away from Fred Warner. My mind goes back to an example of Adrian Peterson, right? They're playing the Bears Monday Night Football. My little butt is sitting there on the couch in Oklahoma, Ponca City, Oklahoma, watching Monday Night Football. It's Vikings against the Bears. They're at the goal line. Vikings are there trying to score a touchdown. They hand the ball off to Adrian Peterson. He runs in the hole, goes, oh crap, there's Brian Urlacher, and cuts the other way and says, nope, not running towards that beast, that Hall of Famer. That is the exact same way quarterbacks are towards Fred Warner. When they see him, it's like, nope, go anywhere but there. That's how great Fred Warner is. Again, he is the greatest eraser of the middle of the field in football. The secondary played pretty good in this game. It was Isaac Yiadom's best game of the season so far, albeit within that same conversation, did not play as much this week. There was a change in their personnel. Second-round pick, Renardo Green, got 17 coverage snaps in this game. He was playing the nickel in this one. They moved Lenore to the outside, which Lenore continues to just be great, but the refs screwed him big time in this game. Lenore was locked down, shut down. He is this team's number one cornerback. I don't care how much he's not paid in regards to Mooney Ward. Lenore has been locked down all year long, but he got screwed by the refs. It was like, oh, I mean, come on. Like, really? He even said in his post-game press conference that, he had to ask PR if he could say what the ref told him. And they were like, nope, you're going to get fined. He was, okay, I'll save my paycheck. But in other words, he was like, the ref effed that up. But he's been great. But back to Renardo Green. Green in this game was really good. For a young player against a bad team, which these are the games you make changes. I think, D. Winters and Warner out there, had Warner not gotten hurt, I believe we would have saw more of D. Winters with Fred Warner. And had Jordan Elliott not got hurt, which I think he's week to week now with a knee injury, we would have saw a different rotation of players. But Renardo Green in this one, 17 coverage snaps, 1 target, 0 catches allowed, and a 39.6 passer rating when targeted. Young players like Green, like D. Winters, they have to play in games like this, or these are games you utilize when you want to make personnel changes. Worse opponent, not going to push the ball downfield, not going to test you, let young players get their bearings. It's a great game for Malik Mustafa to play. Now, Mustafa wasn't great by any means. It was his first NFL career start, but he got reps against the Jets and the Vikings. But that first drive, he missed that tackle where Stevenson didn't even juke him. He just ran around him. You're like, oh, it's going to be one of those days. But he bounced back, cleaned things up. I thought the coverage was good. There wasn't any deep balls downfield. There was one target that was the Jalen Polk sideline, got clobbered by Jair Brown, but caught at the exact same time, but didn't actually count for a catch because he was somewhat out of bounds. It was weird. I thought he caught it, if I'm being honest with you, but just a really good job to limit the Patriots' already limited offense. There is one other thing I do want to dive into, though, because I think it could have an impact on the offense. And it's a very small thing. It could mean nothing. But with Christian McCaffrey's injury seemingly lingering longer than initially expected, with the bilateral Achilles tendonitis now, what do the Niners do, right? You have Jordan Mason. You ride until the wheels fall off, maybe. But right now, San Francisco really just needs to ride him, sure. But you have Grendo behind him, and he fumbled in this game. Kick returns, he fumbled. It's like, great. That's bad. Shanahan yanks him out of the game, says, nope, get out. You're not going to play anymore. We're done. And then instantly, my mind goes to crap. If CMC's out longer, Shanahan doesn't trust Grendo at all. What are we supposed to do if Mason goes down? Or to alleviate Mason's, I guess you can say, snaps, what are we supposed to do? And it's a small thing. May mean nothing. But ultimately, it's you putting Matt Breida if you sign him out there? Probably not. You putting Patrick Taylor Jr. out there? It's something's got to give. Like, I get it. Special teams, they've been a disaster. They continue to cost the team over and over and over again, which in this one, it was a player fault, not a coaching fault, but yikes. Like, what the heck? It was a terrible fumble, mind you, but you're just like, ugh. Like, like my mind was like, it seems he's not going to be healthy, and Mason goes down, or Mason, just needs a break. Do you trust Guerendo? Like, they trusted Cowling back out there. They did not trust Guerendo. It was like, nope, we're done, finitoed. Like, we're not playing this, this game of special teams may cost us. So it's a small thing. I don't think it'll cost them, but just, it's in the back of my mind of, warning, what could happen. I do want to get to Bobo's super chat here, which once again, thank you, Bobo, so much. Anytime you give money, I really appreciate it. You never have to, but thank you so much. $2 is $2 more than I'll ever ask for, and it means so much to me. But I do want to get to your question. Do you feel threatened by the Seahawks this season? I think when there's ever a team in front of you and a hill you have to climb, and that team is directly in front of you, yes, there is that threat of, okay, great. Geno's playing relatively well. They're certainly injured. Their offensive line is just not good at all. But now they have a defensive-minded head coach. It's Mike McDonald. He, with the Ravens last year, made Shanahan's offense look like it was just putrid, which he has a knack for doing that against Shanahan's schemes. Did it against the Rams, against San Francisco, and now having him as Seattle's head coach and lead their defense, yes, is somewhat threatening, if you will. The issue I have with the Seahawks, or the lack of belief I have in the Seahawks, is nothing they've done offensively has changed. Sure, it's another year of Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's Geno Smith. What really is there to fear, right? Offensive line's banged up. San Francisco's defense, for as bad as it's been in the first 4 weeks, if they, kind of hit their trend upwards in 2 weeks' time and they're playing better, San Francisco should be able to beat Seattle like they did last year. San Francisco's offense is going to have to carry a heavier load this year, which maybe that's where concern comes in. I wouldn't be shocked if San Francisco splits games with Seattle this year. But while they have kind of remade their defense, they're playing better. I have to ask you, who have they played? Who have the Seattle Seahawks played this season to go, oh, that was a great win? Now, the same thing can be said for San Francisco. The Jets, right? You played the Patriots. What is there to actually go, oh, wow, what a great win? You lost to the Vikings, which doesn't seem that bad now in retrospect, but you lost to the Rams, which looks really bad. Even worse now, they lost to the Bears. But, Seattle really hasn't beaten anybody you go, whew, wow. It's been the Dolphins with not Tua, Skylar Thompson. It's been the Patriots in overtime. It's been the Broncos and Bo Nix. It's really been nobody. Whereas tonight, they'll get tested. It's the Lions, albeit with no Frank Ragnow, but this should be a big game for Seattle. Who are the Seattle Seahawks? We've asked that question so much of San Francisco. There's expectations as to who you're going to be, but who are you actually? That question tonight will hopefully be answered. Who are the Seattle Seahawks? It's prime time in Detroit, Monday Night Football. Their ceiling is not as high as San Francisco's for sure, but things surprise you. I mean, the Vikings are 4-0. I didn't see that at all. Sam Darnold's playing great football right now. The Commanders look pretty good through 4 games. So anything can happen, but the word threatened by Seattle, I think, maybe isn't the right word. I think I have a cautious eye towards them. Okay, maybe we underestimated them, but ultimately, the NFC West is still San Francisco's division to lose, which they're in second place. They're in 2-2. You have to win, but it's still San Francisco's division to lose, in my opinion. The Rams are 1-3. The Cardinals are 1-3. You're 2-2. Seattle's 3-0, In 2 weeks' time, that can be flipped, and at that point, start running away with things, right? So it's a grind, but ultimately, they have a glass ceiling, which I don't think they can shatter, whereas San Francisco's glass ceiling, if there actually is one, is like winning a Super Bowl. The Seahawks are, can we actually make the playoffs? Which, at this point in time, I think they will, but they don't scare anybody. Ask any fan base, any team, which teams in the NFL or the NFC scare you? The Lions, the Niners, the Packers, the Cowboys, but even then, they're bad right now. Like the Vikings, like Seattle's not in that conversation, despite being undefeated. So, not threatened, just I have a cautious eye towards what they do. But I hope in 2 weeks' time, we're sitting back saying, whew, Seattle Seahawks, man, what a joke. But that is in 2 weeks' time. We will get there when we get there. This week, week 4, San Francisco gets the win 30-13. It was the most cohesive win of the NFL season for San Francisco. They're back to 500. They are 2-2 and in sole possession of second place in the NFC West with their eyes turned upwards, looking at that game tonight, Seahawks versus the Lions. Go Lions! The easiest way to the playoffs is winning your division. If Seattle loses tonight, San Francisco gains a game up on every one of their opponents in the NFC West. But look, you got to take care of your own business. San Francisco did just that against the New England Patriots on Sunday. It is the first Victory Monday of the 2024 NFL season. I'm so happy you get to spend it with me. I want to kindly ask you to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube and the podcasting platforms. And if you can, follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or the Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you want to see San Francisco play this year, or any team in that matter, use promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And if you're waiting with bated breath, hoping to see when is Christian McCaffrey going to be healthy this season, when is he going to play, don't go on Twitter, don't go to ESPN or Fox or Sporting News. Take your attention to SportsSpider.com. They will take news, podcast, YouTube videos from every sports outlet and organize them by your favorite team, so you never have to go to 17 different websites to find a place about your team. SportsSpider.com organizes everything. Again, YouTube videos, podcast, whatever it may be about your team. Niners, Seahawks, doesn't matter. You can find it all on SportsSpider.com. Look, great win. Back to 500, 2-2. What's going to happen this Sunday? Niners, Cardinals at Levi Stadium. Can't wait to watch that one. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a win. Deebo Samuel's back. George Kittle's back. Maybe soon, Christian McCaffrey's back. But until then, you're going to find right here, we're going to preview that game later on this week. Niners, Cardinals, you don't want to go anywhere. Should be a tough matchup ahead, but that's the NFL. Uphill climbs to get where you want to be. San Francisco's 2-2. They bounce back, and we're going to hopefully continue the ride upward next Sunday against the Cardinals. That's all I have for you today. My name is Sterling Bennett. Thank you to Bobo, Lori Matthews, Kawachipto, Fluffy Ninja in the YouTube comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, and until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.